tell us about him, what he's doing with his strollers. Josh?
Thanks, Cliff, and thank you guys. I really appreciate you letting me come and share what I've been up to for the past few years. It was really fun. 2021 was my first year, and Travis invited me out to come let everybody know what I was doing. Me and that little drone with the 2.5 gallon tank sprayed about 1,800 acres of rough pasture, and it fell out of the sky 4 or 5 times a day. So it's been really fun over the past 3 years to watch the industry grow, the equipment get better, and find different cool ways to use the drones. So this year I'll talk to you a little bit about what I've been up to, but I'll spend a lot more time talking about where the industry is going, and then the opportunities for you guys to use these drones both in your counties, and then also the opportunities for landowners in your county to start buying and using their own drones. So um, like I said, this is my third full year. First year, I had this one drone and just me. Second year, I was able to grow to two drones and ran two crews. This last year, we had four trucks, up to five drones rolling around. We only had three going. Sprayed 9,600 acres of rough pasture. This is a pretty typical day, spraying down the Little Missouri River, and then spraying big chunks of leafy spurge up in pretty tough to get to areas. So, like I said, when I first started, I started with that little drone up on the right. It's an MG1P. It had a 2.5 gallon tank. Came with. You turn it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just take this and walk around. So my first year, I started with the MG1P. It's a DJI drone. Unfortunately, all the best drones right now come out of China, and that was kind of top of the market. 2.5 gallons in a tank, and stock it did about 4 acres an hour. I bought an upgrade kit for it, the big floppy booms on it, and that allowed me to do about 12. Um, but it dropped out of the sky 3 to 5 times a day. So I was getting anywhere between 20 and 40 acres down a day, and a monster day would be 60 to 80. Then the next year, I got a really big jump. We went to the DJI T30 that had an 8 gallon tank, and had the ability to spray up to 30 acres an hour. So when I was getting to do big flat fields or big open chunks of pasture, we were getting anywhere between 18 and 25 acres on the more typical stuff. When it got rougher, we were still doing about 10 to 12. And we had a couple monster days, 250, 300 acre days. This year we got another huge jump. DJI released their T40 to the United States. We got a couple upgrades. We dropped the T-jet nozzles and went to atomizers. To get more lift, they went to the dual prop design, and we got an 11 gallon tank. So that brought us anywhere between, when we were doing rough stuff, we are still stuck in the 15, 18 acres an hour range, just because you're doing a lot of manual spraying, you're messing with a lot of trees, helping with elevation. But when we got to open wide up and do insecticide or fungicide work on big fields, 3 to 500 acres a day was doable. And, your best hour would be up to 50 acres now. So that opens up a lot of opportunities in North Dakota, not just for me as a guest applicator, but to people owning their own drones. They're getting easier and easier to use. They're getting more and more reliable, and every year they're getting better and more productive. So my little niche is I like to spray leafy spurge, Canadian thistle, buckbrush. Really create opportunities for ranchers to be able to run more cattle on their land. Um, but also, I'm starting to do a lot of insecticide and specialty work like spraying cattails, and other invasive species out of waterways. And then just recently, over the last couple of years, we're actually opening up the ability for farmers to spray their own crops. So there's a couple drones I'd like to talk about for crop acres first. First off, the T40 is the drone I've been using. Is a monster for fungicide, for insecticide. It has a couple drones. That what you gain in the dual props for lift capacity really gives you a weird turbulence underneath the drone. And so for herbicide work, you have a really high fruit potential. So if you're running in areas, pasture range where you're not going to hurt more noxious weeds, it's still a good tool. But if you start getting into crop work where you've got corn right next to beans, you really need to be careful because with the atomizers giving you a finer droplet, and then the dual props giving you an odd turbulence, there's potential for drift. XAG is a pretty well-known company around the world for spray drones, but are really new in the United States. They just released their P100 Pro, which actually has a 14-gallon tank. It has single set of rotors instead of dual, which really helps with the turbulence under the drone. It has end caps on each one of the props, which really helps contain your vortices. So when you get a slightly windy day, your vortices are really turned down instead of pushed up like the T40 does. And so that makes that drone actually a lot better tool for people running big crop acres. A couple of the downsides of the XNG versus the DJI is the remote controller is a lot more is a lot less easy to use. You don't have a lot of the creature comforts that DJI has. DJI has been making drones for decades, and have really honed in their operating system, their remote controllers. They're easy to use, they're easy to work on. But I see XAG and DJI being competitors going into the future, really pushing each other and pushing the industry forward. So what that's allowed people to do is they can attack their own fungicide acres. You're not tied to waiting for the plane. You can do your own insecticide acres, and if you're willing to drop your rate on water a little bit, you're going to get more done with your ground rig. And it allows you to get into wet fields without waiting. If you're running irrigation, you don't have to shut off the pivots as early to go spray. And then it gives you the ability to spray tasseling corn without running a high voice sprayer in and tearing up your corn, or like I said, being beholden to and waiting on the plant. So for specialty work, there's DJI has released a new drone, their T20P, which is something I'm really excited about. This is basically the same airframe as the T40, same atomizers. There's been some updates to the control for the atomizers that allows us to get a bigger droplet size, which has helped with reducing drift, and it's fixed the turbulence issue. The other thing that I really like about this drone is it's agile. It's really easy to do manual spraying. So if you're trying to spray, river bottoms, or if you're trying to get in between trees, climb up and down hills, it's really a good tool for pasture range, for specialty work. And it also comes in at a price point that's affordable to a lot of landowners, or young guys trying to get started in custom application. That's one thing that I didn't really mention at the beginning is every year the drones have gotten better, and every year they've either stayed the same price or gone down. And so that's really exciting to me because this is opening the door for landowners and producers to start, controlling their noxious weeds better, controlling their waterways better, getting into the field that wasn't an option before, and actually having. So the question that I get asked a lot is, like for government work, we need American drones. And that's been the most frustrating thing and the biggest hurdle for this industry in the United States is U.S. drones are really far behind. We have a few U.S. made companies. They're at the forefront. They're a long ways behind technology wise, efficiency wise, and ease of use wise. But Guardian, the drone on the far right, their smallest model has a 20-gallon tank. They're going to start delivery on drones May of this year. They do have quick charging instead of battery changing, so that drops their efficiency down significantly, and they're only able to do 5 gallon to the acre work. So I see Guardian being a really good use and a replacement of the helicopter within the next 5 to 10 years, but it's not quite an option for us yet. Helio, the drone in the middle, they've been selling drones in the United States for a handful of years. They're consistently getting better and better every year, but they're still, I would say, technology-wise and efficiency-wise, but behind DJI and XAT. But they do have a large line of drones. So you can get drones anywhere from 2.5 gallon tanks up to 18-gallon tanks. So they have better drones that are tailor fit for your own operation. And then the drone to the far left is a company called TTA out of California. They're the most expensive, but they're also the most versatile. So they're working on a lot of stuff, vector control, for mosquitoes. Uh, they're doing a lot of work with forestry stuff. And what's really exciting about TTA is they're a very customizable drone. So they work with individual users to find the best nozzle setup, the best boom setup, to fit your operation. And so I see TTA starting to really make a splash in the market over the next 3 to 5 years. And really opens the door for us to start doing some more government work and not having the stipulation of running Chinese drones. So I talked a little bit through this presentation about the benefits, but some things that I love about these pieces of equipment, I get precise application. I know exactly what I'm putting down and where I'm putting it down. I'm not hoping that my side by side is calibrated correctly, or the guy running the gun is putting down the right amount of chemical. Um, every acre that needs 7 ounces of milestone is getting 7 ounces of milestone. So we're not burning grass, and we're making sure the weeds are dead. And so that's been something that's exciting to me. I get great coverage due to the prop wash. One thing that I was really concerned about when I was getting started was I was used to the four-wheeler, and so I was used to putting down 30 gallons of water. And on things like buckbrush, I was really scared that I wasn't going to get good enough coverage, only using 2 gallons to the acre. So I thought I was going to exchange efficacy for access to difficult to reach areas. What I found really quickly was the prop wash does two things. It swirls the chemicals so you get a good coverage of the entire plant. And it also moves the canopy around and allows you to actually get penetration all the way to the bottom. So if you've got a thick layer of brush and you've got shoots coming up underneath, you're not just killing the top layer of brush and have to come back and hit those shoots later. You're getting the chemical drove all the way to the bottom, covering the entire leaf all the way down. I'm getting good bug brush kills all the way into late June, which I didn't think was going to be an option for me. It's easy to track. It's easy for me to, at the end of the day, go and pull as applied records and see exactly where the drone sprayed, exactly what areas got hit. You can go sit down with your customers, draw on a map exactly what needs sprayed, build the map right at their kitchen table, and send your applicators out to go spray. And then, like I was saying in the beginning, you don't have to try to trek a four-wheeler, off into the middle of the yard and spray a 1 acre patch of weeds. You can fly from the pickup and go a half mile away, knock that weed patch out, and go to the next one. So it's been an awesome tool for me in pasturing range. Like I said, I'm really excited to see all the other opportunities that are opening up with the higher efficiency and capacity of drones. But I've been extremely excited and overwhelmed with the abilities of these machines. So with all of the good, there are some obstacles that we have to overcome. First off is licensing is really, really difficult in the beginning. The 137 license is the exact same license that the crop dusters need, and so we only fly through a list of exemptions that lets us fly under the same license as the plane. That process used to take 18 months to 2 years. Now, if you get the right person writing your license, it's anywhere between 2 to 3 months. Um, the small tank sizes has also been a problem, and convincing people that 2 gallons to the acre works. Being in the Midwest and understanding that, seeing the planes out there spraying 2, and even under that gallons to the acre, that's been a little bit less of a conversation. But as you start getting farther towards the East Coast, the idea of going down from 10 to 2 has been really difficult, and the small tank sizes has been the biggest issue. As tanks are starting to grow, and battery capacity is getting better. We're getting the ability to actually, spray higher volumes, 3, 4, 5 gallons to the acre. It does knock into our efficiency, but it's still possible. The other thing is you almost need to treat the drone as the boom of your spray rig, not your entire spray rig. So figuring out how to get your equipment close to the field really increases your efficiency. If that drone only has to fly, 25, 30 feet from the edge of the field to your pickup or your trailer every time, you're keeping it that much more efficient. The drones have the ability to dump an 11-gallon tank in about 6 minutes. And if you can keep your ferrying time and ground time down to less than a couple of minutes, uh, that's make or break on whether or not you're doing 15 acres an hour or 50. Um, and then dealing with new and unreliable equipment has been a real struggle for me in my operation. And one thing that's been really, really exciting is every year they get bigger, they get better, but they also get more life. I've had less issues with every drone as they keep getting better. And I expect that reliability to go up year after year. So I only have about 15 minutes set aside, but if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer anything you have.
Is it for activating the spray? Is it just in on off, or does the drone or your control system have a way of determining sat too long in one spot and you're overcountable, or is there any assistance on managing your spray?
So for the drones that I use, there's three different modes. There's a route mode where you plan your mission, and it gives you a grid. You're able to move the grid into the most efficient way to spray the field, or perpendicular to the wind, which is how you want to spray to get good coverage. When it's in that mode, it shuts off every time it turns a corner, every time it comes up to an obstacle and it has to go around. It's set to shut off. When you're spraying in completely manual mode, you have the ability to turn on and turn off the spray as you're flying around. And then there's also a mode called N plus. So every time you're moving forward, it sprays at exactly the rate that you're asking it to do. And as it's speeding up, it's working at very rate. So as I'm speeding up from 0 to 15 miles an hour, it's changing its pump speed, but keeping a consistent 2 gallons a acre, just like your spray rate.
You were talking about rolling rockets out of the air. What was causing that?
There's a multitude of issues. The drones were not designed to spray big fields and to climb hills like I was asking it to do. They're designed to spray small rice paddies in Asia. So you have a lot of issues with electrical components overheating because they're getting overworked. My first year, the biggest issue was I had those booms on a drone that wasn't designed to have booms on it. And the ESCs were working harder, the motors were working harder, the frame was getting torqued. And so I was just overloading the drone, and that was causing a lot of issues. Heat is something that if you don't manage your battery temperature, can cause electrical components to fail. And so that's been something that I've had to learn over the past couple of years. Just keep the batteries in shade. It seems simple and obvious, but that fixes a lot of the problems. And then I think some Chinese manufacturing has been a problem too, and not getting quality parts out.
So do you run spotters and do you run them in tandem or anything?
What do you mean by that?
Do you have spotters for your drones? Like people?
We run in two-man teams, so you've got a filler and a pilot.
Okay. Then you run more than one drone at the time?
We'll run more than one drone off of a pickup. I want them paying complete attention to the drone that they're working with because it's really easy for things to go wrong. They're really good, efficient pieces of equipment that you have to be just to pay attention to them. So there's a lot of times where you have two pilots and one filler off one pickup, but never two guys or never one guy running two controllers. Any questions, Bill?
Got one question. So, if you're projecting how long it will take the United States to get the technology to go to China?
U.S. companies have been so handcuffed by regulations that I don't know if they're ever like it's unfortunate. I don't know if they're ever going to catch up because every year China's pumping out new and better equipment. And the unfortunate fact is every time we come out with anything that might be groundbreaking, they're already 10 steps ahead and they're going to steal that. So it's really frustrating because I want to buy American, I want to use American, but it's tenfold better to use the Chinese equipment.
Would it cost or
It's super varied. A lot of my crop work is $14 to $16 an acre. Most of the pasture work is 20 to 28. And then once we start getting into creeks, river bottoms, the stuff that you're doing a lot of manual spraying or spot spraying, that's anywhere between 375 and 450 an hour, depending on the drone that's working. Um, but even when you're doing that stuff, I mean, we're doing 2 to 3 miles a creek, a couple passes on each side in an hour. So they're really efficient, really fast. It's cheaper in my opinion than any other way to do it, except maybe climate, at least on the pasture side.
you talk about the telephone? You talk about how down pushes you over now the third side of the street better. No use.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's one of my favorite things about the drones is, and especially if they're letting them go faster and faster every year, and I think that's getting rid of one of the biggest benefits of the drone, which is that downforce and it is that crop wash. So the the P100 Pro has the ability to run at 32 miles an hour. The T40 can run at 24 miles an hour. I slow them down to 15. That narrows your swath width a little bit because the farther the drone pitches forward, the more it pushes out. But then I feel like you're laying down like an airplane, and we're not getting the good distribution of chemical and the good canopy penetration, which is one of the biggest benefits of the drone. So if you run them slow and you narrow your swath up a lot, you get probably the best coverage I think you can get.
Hey Josh, kind of looked up your bio here. That I see it. You've been in business since 2020.
Yep.
Earlier, engaged in alumni animal science.
Yep.
And that how do you get involved and get your expertise just in 4 years I can see animal like that.
When I got out, I was an animal science major and I picked up an agronomy minor towards the end of college. I spent 2 years running a ground rig for DFC as an agronomy intern, and I didn't care about crops. So I came out to Killdeer for a summer job spraying weeds on a four-wheeler, doing mostly pipelines for right-of-ways, and it drove me nuts running up and down the right-of-way and spraying 100 feet of weeds when there was spurge as far as you could see either direction. So I started looking into what it would take to be a helicopter pilot. And that was right when drones were starting to show up in the US. So I got really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. And I love it. I mean, it excites me every day. So it's pretty easy to go out and figure things out. That's something you're excited about. What I can do for my customers is what's really, really exciting to me. We're cleaning up areas that have been infested with spurge for decades, and you come back in 2 years and we can't find a spurge plant. So that gets me really, really excited. We can actually start tackling this problem instead of just containing it.
You were talking about efficiency and reporting and that as your pickup. Do you have like any batchway kind of concept or that person's got a guard read or preloaded and come there and stuff the drone or what's that like?
I make 200-gallon hot mixes. We've tried to go the batch play route and load one at a time, but I can't even think of the word. The dosatrons that you would need to get the right ratio of chemical in the drone, they're all either too big or too small to make it work and way too expensive. So for me, it makes a lot more sense to make large hot mixes, and then I can fill the drone. It takes about 20 seconds to fill the tank, and about the same as swap the battery. So if you're quick on the ground, you can get it out in about a minute, and then it takes you 5-10 minutes to hot load every 3 hours.
What's the recharge time for batteries?
9 to 11 minutes, depending on how dead they are. So they're quick. You have a battery coming off the charger about every time a drone's coming back. So 4 batteries will run you all day. You can get away with 3, but you'll catch one after about 3-4 hours.
Have you ever had to increase water volume based on wind speed? Say you maybe start at 3 mile, 6-7 miles per hour. Any adjustments for that?
I can change droplet size on the fly, and so normally if wind speed increases, I narrow in my swath width and increase my droplet size. Um, I haven't because I'm hot mixing. I haven't increased water volume. I think that would be another good option. With the T30s and running with nozzles, I would get a lot of shift, but not a lot of drift. It would, you might be 20 feet off target, but as long as you account for that and adjust your map to be 20 feet off target to a 13, 14 mile an hour wind, you're okay. Going to the atomizers, we got updates at the end of the season that allowed us to go from a coarse droplet as 300 microns to a coarse droplet as 5. So that really, really helped dealing with winds. And I'm really excited to see the T20P work more in wind because my biggest issue was the weird vortices coming out of the T40 um, in account to dealing with wind speed. So that I used to be able to run 15, 16 miles an hour if there was nothing close. Um, with the older drones running T-jet nozzles, this last year we had to shut down like pretty well 10 because of the turbulence coming out of the drone.
Now I've got a question back here. What was your favorite spurge product?
My favorite what?
Favorite spurge product, favorite spurge mix. What do you spray?
Am I gonna get in trouble?
Oh,
Coming from Bill.
I used a lot of Tordon 240, but Method knocked the shit out of Spurgeon. So that was kind of, I really enjoyed using Method. What was that? I haven't looked. I don't know.
all night.
I run 12 feet above the canopy. That's about as low as you can fly and get a really good distribution of chemical. Because of the way that the props move chemical, if you run too low, it all collects in the center, and so you get a really heavy dousing of chemical right down the middle, and it gets really faint on the edges. That 11 to 13 feet is kind of the sweet spot where you actually you give it enough time to push out and give yourself even coverage.
Favorite squat or fucking period?
Um, it depends on the drone. They're all a little bit different. The T30 I ran in between anywhere in between 20 and 24. The T40 it depends on speed and droplet size, but I'll run that anywhere between 26 and 32. And then the T20P is anywhere between 20 and 28. So it speed, droplet size, water volume, all those affect your spot width. So it takes a lot of testing at the beginning of the year to really dial in. And different products can affect it a little bit too, not significantly, but Roundup acts a little bit different than Tordon 240. So you got to test it and make sure that your same swath widths apply.
Josh, what are your plans for 2024 as far as crews you're running and what drones are you using?
We're gonna run two T20Ps, one T40, and one XMG here in Pro. Pretty much keep the same crew size, and then have a couple T30s running around and picking up smaller projects. So try to dial in a big crew and not have quite as much chaos running around with that many people. Do you have a question, Cliff?
Having trouble keeping crews, the ball trained well.
What's kind of cool about the drone thing is young kids are excited about it. It's exciting, it's fun, and it's different than what they're doing. So all three, I had 6 people last year, and all three that I wanted to come back are coming back. So that helps a lot too. Is that it's kind of fun and it's engaging and different than what a lot of people are doing. And it's not as dangerous as sending a kid out on a 4-wheeler. I've rolled a bunch, and I don't really want to have people under me rolling 4-wheelers in Badlands.
Can you talk about how you're working with some of the challenges? For talking
But that's really helped, especially in the pasture and range side. Is there's cost share programs for pretty much everything. So although the drone application seems expensive for what it is, getting the chemical costs down has been a real big benefit to me. And I think everybody in this room knows the value of the cost share programs.
how you work with, say, like Stark County. How you work with on this project. How you're up to basically save some money to use their costs like
Oh yeah, for sure. When I get put reports out at the end of the day, I know exactly how many acres were sprayed. I know exactly what came out of every drone and what location. So when I send reports to the county, we didn't sell somebody a 2.5 gallon jug of Milestone. We sold them 2.1 gallons. So customer gets savings because they're not buying the entire jug, and the county's not cost sharing, a half a gallon of Milestone that just sits in some big shop for 2 years. So the um, the accuracy that we have, and then the record keeping ability that we have, because everything's documented. I can look on my phone at the end of the day and see exactly what every drone did, exactly where it sprayed. I can see the path that it took, where people parked, which makes management a lot easier.
forestry application And that's the look there, well, out on roll. Well, high up, you can fly fairly well, yeah, it's just great.
So the guys that I talk to in the Pacific Northwest that are doing a lot of forestry application, they're flying 100 feet in the air. So that's where having a specialized drone that has specialized nozzles, they're throwing down a lot of water. They're throwing down anywhere between 5 to 10 gallons to the acre, um, and running really narrow swaths. Um, basically, shooting a 10-degree nozzle. Um, that's not something that there's a lot of use for out here, but I think that's really cool that we've got companies working on customizing things specifically for specific applications. Were you going somewhere else with that, or is that your question?
Take us in from the second side. Check, grant the read. Check the
The vector control guys, I know they're putting down 9 to the acre, and they're flying anywhere between 50 and 100 feet above the canopy, throwing down 60 to 100 foot swaths. It's pretty impressive what you're able to do with the right drone and the right notes.
I just didn't know like a lot of our sport flying up high.
400 feet, and um, when you're spraying, if I'm over 100 feet, I need to file for it's called a lens, but to basically say where I'm going to be and how high I'm going to be. It's not hard. But 400 feet is our ceiling for legality for drones.
Is there a anything long way over this like 15 for that or any regulations we close to
I have a good Corey palm hands, and as long as you are not actively spraying within 100 feet of a vehicle that's not part of the operation, you're okay. So when you're spraying, dirt road right away it's easy. You just land the drone when somebody's coming. For highways and stuff, I know me and the NU guys were talking. You would need to shut down portions of the highway in order to make that work.
I do know on when where Paul is where your grass out be slowed down right of the teams. You actually do Josh has done the same thing. Josh was still busy something. So but you got more engineers to do it. Planes that they have to do 100-foot slot. You can charge much cheaper with this thing. Drill, you gotta set up 45-foot slot. So this is kind of spray. Planes do it right away once how much fuel they're fixing. And so they were actually rolling it in the drilling the pot on the sort of acre, they sprayed the same exact amount of quantity they sprayed. So let's cut it out. No, we cut it out. I think it was 800 some miles right kind of radius. 25 squat, the enemies, 0. Well, guys, little let us drill each decided right of the same. Again, no traffic, your own downtime, your own downtime, no traffic. Scott said, you're got traffic, you might watch that. Again, it does, especially on times later by.
And it's an excellent tool for that. That's an awesome place to use them there. I mean, you can fly for 2 miles before you have to land. Anybody else have anything? Well, thank you guys for your time, and thanks again for letting me know.
Something before you, Josh. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.